Hey, I'm Slopcore, and Doom Eternal is a difficult game. Across YouTube, one can find many videos detailing and praising the game's combat loop and its ability to keep the player in the fun zone, which is when the player is engaging with all of the different mechanics that feed back into each other, seamlessly creating a smooth, satisfying cycle which incentivizes aggression. The foundation of Doom Eternal's gameplay is rooted in fast-paced, high-reflex, high APM gaming, and is thusly a potent challenge at its highest difficulty scale, Nightmare, in which even the smallest demons will melt you if you aren't careful. But that is not it. id Software included a mode called Ultra Nightmare, which is just a permadeath mode locked on Nightmare difficulty. I was able to complete this challenge after literally hundreds of hours of attempts. Yes! Let's fucking go, dude! Oh my god! And have since developed a now long-standing interest in the 100% completion speedrun of Doom Eternal on Ultra Nightmare difficulty because of its sheer insanity. This near 2 to 3 hour speedrun is by far the most physically challenging, heart-pumping, back-breaking, noxious and volatile, soul-crushing, broken run I have ever seen in my life, and no doubt I would never have seen it were it not also so damn cool. Like, even cooler than it is bullshit, and it is absolutely bullshit. So in this video, we are going to be dissecting all of the different reasons why that is, and by looking at the movement, combat, completion requirements, major skips, bugs and glitches, resource routing, and more, I hope even someone with passing knowledge on this game will come out feeling like they have endured hundreds of attempts that have died in spectacular blinks of the eyes an hour and a half deep into the run. So, without further ado, I hope you enjoy.
Subject analysis of Doomslayer, January 24th, 2163. Maybe he is a god. Maybe he represents humankind's rage, their will to persevere.
We must pray now. Pray that he is watching.
This here is a list of all of the restricted tech for this category, and it would take an entire separate video to explain all of this, so just note that the most important one is that we cannot go out of bounds. And we will focus more on what we can do. And first, we will start with the movement. Jumping, double jumping, and dashing are the building blocks of this satisfying and near limitless physics system in which we can use many tools to break it wide open. But first, we have to look at simply walking and jumping. You can see here, Doomguy moves at a default horizontal pace of 9.5 m per second, and we'll just call them meters. He moves at that pace on the ground and in the air, unless influenced by the game's boost pads, or monkey bars, or dashes, or climbable walls, or any other means which we'll get to soon. Now, the observant viewer will have already noticed something strange, and if you didn't, that's okay because it happens very quickly. Now, let's watch Doomguy's speed when he lands on the ground from jump height. Whoa. Huh, let's watch that from a taller height. Okay, and now let's watch it slowed down dramatically. When Doomguy lands on the ground, he actually lurches forward a little bit, and even more so the greater the height. You can jump again during this lurch, and with the right timing, this will cause Doomguy to jump again, except he will basically be propelled forward at varying increased amounts of speed. This is called a bunny hop, and it is the most foundational piece of tech in the game. With it, the player can not only generate speed, but also maintain their high rates of speed by chaining them together. Due to this incredibly short window of time, bunny hops, which I will refer to for the rest of the video as b-hops, can be very nuanced, and while mouse and keyboard users have macros bound to their scroll wheels, which can help a little with consistency, and runners on controller must resort to incredibly precise single inputs, bad b-hops, especially in the early game, can really make or break your entire run. And very thankfully, While they remain important up until the last second, their use in generating speed falls off significantly as the run goes on, starting with when we gain the dash ability in the second level. The dash, which the player gets 2 of on a short cooldown timer, kinda has 2 parts that we can break it down into. Part 1 being an acceleration to 33 meters per second, followed by part 2 being a deceleration back down to the default moving speed, which you may remember is 9.5 meters per second. Unless you are not holding a direction, then it will just go back down to 0. Here, we can see a side-by-side comparison of how fast the Doom Guy can dash optimally with and without the cooldown upgrade. And while either of these are faster than just plain walking, speedrunners will always find a way to do better, and indeed here with dashes, they definitely have. You see, dashing into a wall or another piece of level geometry actually cancels the deceleration phase. So this means if we dash, accelerate into a wall at up to 33 meters per second, and then move away from the wall before that acceleration finishes, without the game then telling Doom Guy to slow down, we can maintain that high level of speed. They can either be performed in the air or standing on the ground. However, if you're standing on the ground, you must jump immediately after, otherwise you will just continue to walk at normal speed. Each dash boost is different and nuanced in its own little ways. And this is where the game starts to break wide open, because we do not just use this tech in a few specific spots and save only a minute or 2 throughout the run. It is not just helping us go from one arena to the next slightly faster. Dash boosts are scattered throughout this game like snowflakes in Antarctica. They can be done almost anywhere and can be used not just horizontally, but vertically as well, and almost any direction in between, gaining us speed, time save, accessing certain areas, advantage in combat, backups to certain skips or tricks, and insanely fun to do. Dash boosts are one of the many things that turn this speedrun into an incredible experience. And real quick, there are even a few subcategories of dash boosts, which I will describe here briefly before we move on. If you use one of the game's many cutscenes to interrupt a mid-air dash before the deceleration, it will also cancel it and give you a major boost once it finishes. This is called cut speed, which you can only do probably around a dozen or half a dozen times throughout the run. And at about the same quantity, there are also edge boosts, which are very nuanced, but done by dashing directly into the very corner of a 90-degree angle. And also used with much less frequency are punch boosts. While there are probably only less than a dozen potential punch boosts throughout the run, most of them, if you go for them, are very important, the first being less than 2 minutes in, and the second biggest reset point behind the barge fight. So basically, meleeing is wonky in this game. The basic punch does literally 1 point of damage without the blood punch charge, and is the same input used for glory kills, breakable walls, and interactables. And when Doom Guy goes for any of these, the game will launch him forward towards his target. And interestingly enough, it will launch him forward for even the basic melee punch, which again does basically nothing. So, if we put some ground between us and a punchable target, like a demon, we can launch ourselves up into the air at incredible speeds. And doing a front chainsaw on the Arachnotrons will actually set you up with a perfect launch pad because they just automatically work on the turret. We have already gone over a lot of ways to generate speed in this game, but we haven't even gotten to the most important ones, of which we'll start with the coolest weapon attachment in all of gaming, the meat hook of the super shotgun. When you hook onto a demon, it will bring the Doom Guy towards it at a rate of 19 meters per second. Pretty good compared to the default 9.5. However, by holding either left or right, Doom Guy will travel in an arc around the demon, increasing speed linearly as he goes, for as long as you are connected. By simply breaking the hook at some point during this arc, Doom Guy can maintain all of that additional speed. As soon as we get the super shotgun in level 3 cultist base, we are meat hooking all over the place. Now, this already lets us generate more speed than a dash boost or a bunny hop, and is generally easier to perform. But do you remember how I said this run is insanely broken? Well, it turns out that the meat hook is unbelievably broken. But before we get into why, I must first explain something weird. See, the player's ability to gain speed, and also a ton of other small things in the game, is entirely dependent on the frame rate. Simply put, the higher the frame rate, the faster you can go. Now, this might sound great, and it is. However, this also applies to the demons.
Fear. The speedrunners are rank with it.
At 250 frames per second, the community agreed upon limit for PC runners, demons not only attack faster and chain their attacks together faster, but can also lunge at you from incredible distances almost instantly. Here is a side-by-side comparison of a Hell Knight at 250 frames per second and 30 frames per second. Ultra Nightmare at the casual average of 60 to 100 frames per second is already pretty difficult, so going all the way up to 250 for the speedrun must mean that it's pretty important, right? Well, when we look again at what we can do with the meat hook, you can see why. During the arc, when our speed is consistently increasing, this rate of increase is tied to the frame rate, not the in-game time. So, if we open up the weapon wheel during this arc, the game will slow down, but the frame rate won't, allowing us to more than quadruple the potential speed limit. Doing this is called a yeet hook, for obvious reasons, and makes possible one of the coolest segments in the run, from which we can skip nearly a third of this level, Doom Hunter Base, while still collecting 100% of the items and combat encounters. Now, while we're meat hooking everywhere, there are only a small handful of yeet hooks in the run, but goddamn, are they one of the coolest things I have ever seen in a speedrun ever. So that's the coolest weapon attachment. Now we can talk about the coolest weapon, and that is the ballista. Walking forwards and firing the ballista will nearly bring the Doom guy to a full halt, but only for a quick second, and conversely, walking backwards firing will very briefly speed him up. Combined with a jump and a 180, you can more than double Doom guy's default speed, and this is called a ballista boost. Acquiring the ballista after the 4th level will pretty much complete our movement arsenal for the remaining 9 levels, and becomes, next to the meat hook, our primary means for accelerated transportation. Compared to the high levels of speed we can get from the meat hook, the ballista's sheer speed potential may seem a bit lacking, but its freedom and utility affords us a far greater impact on time save possibilities by allowing us to gain speed anywhere we need it, and it's hard to say whether the meat hook or the ballista is more important when it comes to the actual skips in the run, but we can go over those later, and you'll have to let me know in the comments which one you think is better. Now, there are a few other small ways that one can generate speed in the restricted category, but now that we have covered the most important and frequently used methods, I believe we can move on to the thing that drives people to this game in the first place: the combat. If the previous 10 minutes gave you the impression that this run was mainly movement focused and skipped most of the game's combat, then oh boy, am I excited to prove you wrong. Granted, the hundo category attempts to skip as much combat as physically possible, but the thing that kind of works against us for that is this bar right here. This is literally the combat meter, and for a run to be valid, we must fill it completely for every level. Some levels will have secret encounters, slayer gates, or bosses that count towards them, but all except one will have at least 5 boxes out of the 10 dedicated to generally killing demons. And for that, only an encyclopedic description can define the exact parameters, so to not bore you, let's go over the easy parts first. The levels with secret encounters will always have 2 of them, and each will count as a box. Pop the secret gore nest, kill the demons it spawns in the time allocated, and boom, those boxes will fill. There are 4 boss fights throughout the game. The Doom Hunter fight will count as 5 out of the 10 of its levels boxes. The Gladiator counts as all 10 because there's nothing else in the level. The Con Maker in Urdak counts as 3 out of 10, leaving 5 general and 2 secret encounters, and the final boss, Icon of Sin, counts as 5 out of the 10. The secret encounters are pretty much scripted, and the bosses and Slayer gates we can go over in a minute, so how exactly do we fill up the general boxes? Well, there is very little rhyme or reason to which specific demons count towards this part of the combat meter, and follows different rules for every encounter, arena, and anything in between. There is no way for me to accurately describe it without going over every single encounter. Sometimes nothing will count unless you wipe out the entire arena. Sometimes dozens of specific demons will count towards the meter, and sometimes, fuck you, we don't even know. And it's not even worth going over in this video. Instead, to put it simply, we do not kill 100% of the total demons that spawn in this game. Indeed, some areas will spawn certain demons infinitely until you kill another certain demon. But for the sake of the argument, I'd say at least 95% or more of every demon in this game will die by the end of the run. So, how do we kill them quickly? We start the game with the combat shotgun, and almost immediately acquire both the sticky bomb and full auto mods, and though the sticky bombs will see more use, full auto makes some pretty useful appearances here and there. Otherwise, not much going on with this weapon. Next, we acquire the heavy cannon and the precision bolt attachment for it. This is the GOAT of demon population control in this game. Without any other weapons, we can already reach very high DPS values. When you fire the precision bolt, or PB for short, you can wait the eternity it takes for the cooldown to let you fire again, or you can swap to the combat shotgun and back to bypass that cooldown, or you can fire, punch, and then use the bind to pull out the heavy cannon again and bypass that cooldown even faster. This is called a punch cancel, and chaining them together is a great way to destroy heavy demons very quickly in the early game before we have access to more powerful weapons. Shortly afterwards, we acquire the plasma rifle, which won't see much use after the early game, but still comes with its own great utility for the first couple levels because of the heat blast ability. Nostalgic and fun to use though it may be, killing demons with the sustained fire can be very slow, so you may see runners instead firing it into the ground while walking around in the first couple levels. This is solely to charge that heat blast, which is a quick burst of AoE damage based on how many of the 3 pips have been charged. But yep, there's more to it than that. We have some more weird tech to talk about now. If you swap weapons while sustaining fire with the plasma rifle, the game will do the swap animation while the gun is still firing. You fire about 4 shots total during this animation, and if you trigger the heat blast during it, holding the fire button, the game will become confused and will trigger a heat blast for each shot during the animation. Basically, this means you can fire up to 4 full heat blasts in less than a second. This is called a yeet blast, and it does enough damage to kill some heavy demons like the Arachnotron or Hell Knight instantly if done correctly. Very efficient for the early game, and the main reason for quote-unquote wasting the ammo to charge it. Unfortunately, once we get the Hot Swapper upgrade, the potential number of blasts decreases to 2 and is no longer an efficient use of the ammo. But Slopcore, this seems so powerful, why not just not get that upgrade? Well, when we get the rocket launcher in the 3rd level, quick swapping weapon combos is just that much more powerful. PB rockets is an insanely powerful combo, but yes, you guessed it, there's even more weird awesome tech we can do with these two weapons. Look, I'll be honest, I don't know how this works mechanically, but if you PB, hold fire, switch to rockets, and immediately start a lock-on burst, you can lock on and fire much more quickly. This is called a slob, or Siler lock-on burst, and here's a visual representation of the time difference between the two. This is an extremely fast way to take out heavy demons like the Mancubus, and can often be a matter of life or death if you fail it. Shortly after the rocket launcher, we acquire the Super Shotgun, or SSG, and combined with the PB, it achieves at close range the highest possible DPS in the game, barring the BFG or Unmaker. And then, after this, we get the Ballista, and if you've been following along, you will not be surprised to learn that we can do some more weird tech with it. With the Destroyer Blade weapon mod, or D-Blade for short, you can unleash a massive beam that does crazy damage and goes through demons. But if you open Weapon Wheel during the fire animation, hover over the combat shotgun, and press the mod swap input, the game again becomes confused and will fire a second whole D-Blade without the need to charge. This was, interestingly enough, found very recently and has made a lot of previously implemented D-Blades in the route far more effective. Now, there are a plethora of other tiny pieces of tech, like using the chainsaw to cancel the cooldown, stopping you from pulling out a different weapon for a few seconds after firing the BFG, but with the major stuff out of the way, we have to talk about the arenas throughout the game now. As a testament to the beautiful design of this game, no two arenas are the same, and while we as runners know exactly what to expect in each one of them, the predictability should not detract from how intricate they are, and the thing that makes them intricate is the usage of waves. Instead of dissecting each and every one, as much as I would like to do that, let's instead study one specifically because of how precise yet simple it is. This is Vermilion Canal in the level Super Gore Nest. Upon entering this arena, there are already spawned 2 Mancubus here and here. 2 Arachnotrons here, which are scripted to walk out from these holes before they can do anything else, and a bunch of imps and soldiers over here infighting with each other and the other Mancubus. We start with a precise meat hook off of this imp into the quad damage power-up and kill the 2 Arachnotrons before they can exit their little home. Then we kill Mancubus 1 and then 2. Only now does the game start counting how many fodder are killed, and after 5 of them, 2 revenants will enter and immediately eat a ballista to the face, and there is a dread knight that will spawn right behind us as well. We blast him with the SSG, and this will trigger 2 cacodemons on opposite sides of the arena to spawn in the air, and 2 carcasses in the spider home behind us as well. After those, it doesn't matter how many fodder are left because the arena will end and we can jam this key delicately into this thing here and move on. Sound complicated? Well, no, that's actually one of the less nuanced arenas, though still very difficult to pull off smoothly. But I think this arena is a perfect microcosmic representation of how we approach arenas. It requires movement tech, spawn knowledge, good aim, hastiness, and even improvisational skills should things go awry, which they very often do in this game. Let's say, for instance, you miss shooting this Revenant. Well, that Dread Knight behind you can kill you in a heartbeat, so you're gonna have to deal with him, but then the other Revenant could be anywhere at this point. It'll take just slightly longer to kill him by when your quad damage has now run out. And then the cacodemons you have to kill regularly as well. By then the carcasses could be anywhere attacking you, and it just becomes an absolute clusterfuck. If you aren't prepared to improvise, you become a sitting duck in the open to fodder projectiles and can die in the blink of an eye. So let's also really quick look at the hardest arena in the whole game, the infamous Arc Complex Slayer Gate. This, again, may not be the most complicated arena in the game, but it is certainly one of the most dangerous. You enter and immediately need to kill this tyrant, while a second tyrant and 3 heavies, which RNG decides whether they are Mancubi or Whiplashes, are hunting you down along with some random fodder. You must kill 2 heavies to trigger a Baron of Hell to spawn, hopefully hit both him and our friend Theodore, the other tyrant, with a D-blade, kill the Baron, and then a 3rd heavy to trigger a Doom Hunter to spawn. You go kill him quick and finish off the tyrant and any remaining fodder and grab some gasoline before you leave. Sounds simple, but remember, this is nightmare difficulty and much earlier than you normally encounter these super heavies in the campaign. It is unbelievably easy to die in here. So, before we move on from combat, we should briefly review the bosses. The Doom Hunter fight can be very dangerous because of how low our health is at this point in the run. Casually, you might use the plasma rifle to break his shield in order to damage him, but you can actually just hit his sled instead. With a succession of staggers by the Blood Punch, grenades, and a Heat Blast, we can rush him down with PB-SSG combos until he's off the sled, by when we can finish him off with lock-on bursts. Part 2 of this fight is largely the same, except there's 2 of them, but with slightly less health. Difficult, sure, but overall not too complicated. The Gladiator of Sentinel Prime can be one-cycled with a perfectly timed BFG followed by weapon combos. If you miss this, then he can be stood on in order to get around his shield. Phase 2, we hope he uses his deflector as little as possible, and we just try to rush his health bar down as fast as we can. The Conmaker is just a series of slobs and headshots on the drones to refill our ammo in between her health bars. It's just simple enough. And for the final boss, the Icon of Sin, it seems like runners have very slightly differing strats, but they all generally boil down to using many BFGs, which one-shot the body parts, save for the head in Phase 2, and more quick-swapping weapon combos. Nothing really out of the ordinary except playing well, going fast, and really making sure you're aiming the BFGs correctly. Now, the Marauders are technically kind of a mini-boss.
Opening the portal now.
Never one of us. You were nothing but a usurper, a false idol. My eyes have been opened. Let me help you to see, Slayer.
But there's many of them throughout the run, and there's 2 ways we can deal with them. If you are running this game down patched to the 1.1 update, you can toss an ice bomb over him, and he will track it with his shield, allowing you to hit him with 2 lock-on bursts without him even really caring about it. However, if you are running on current patch, you can still one-cycle him, but it requires a much more precise technique, which requires a very tight combination of slobs and grenade tosses to keep him staggered. So far now we've completely covered movement and combat, but what exactly does the 100% completion requirements imply, since earlier we established that we don't even technically kill 100% of the demons in the game? Well, first of all, in every level there are collectibles in the form of lore codexes as well as secret toys and albums. We just walk into the codexes, but these question marks require a precise weapon swap input in order to skip their animation. Not only does it save time, but some of these we collect in the presence of demons, and we are not invulnerable during the animation. In addition to these collectibles, there are 3 mission challenges in all save 3 levels. Most of them are pretty simple, like flame belching 4 enemies at once in Cultist Base, but some others can be literally run-ending, like the glory kill challenges, which require glory killing specific demons from a specific angle. The The sucky part is that for the Tyrant and Archvile challenges, there is only one of them in the level you can get it on. And if you get just slightly off angle, you get the wrong glory kill, and if you accidentally kill the demon without staggering it, your run is over. Boom. Done. Just like that. And what makes it even worse is that the way the game decides which glory kill you get can be very janky. You could be standing behind the Tyrant looking at his feet, which is what you're supposed to do, but the game will just give you the in-air, top of his head glory kill. Oh yeah, and did I mention that these challenges are also in the final couple levels of the game? It is crazy how many insane runs have been lost to these glory kill animations. But we'll talk about more awful ways to lose runs in a moment. The other thing we have to worry about for 100% is the weapon masteries. For a lot of them, like the microwave beam and mobile turret, we can just spend a mastery token, which is a collectible found in the few final levels. But we have to complete the rest of them manually through more gameplay challenges. So let's go over them really quickly. Several times throughout the run, we have to swap to micro missiles and hit 3 demons in a single volley 15 separate times. We need 75 headshots with the precision bolt, 50 kills with the super shotgun while using the meat hook, at least 3 kills with a D-blade 15 separate times, 20 cacodemons killed with the arbalist, and 20,000 damage dealt while deploying the chain gun energy shield. We also need to collect all of the runes, sentinel crystals, and praetor suit tokens, purchase every upgrade possible, and collect a few more secrets in the Fortress of Doom, and that's pretty much it. So, we've seen a few ways that this game can be broken, but mostly only in ways that benefit the runners. But there are so many myriads of ways the bugs in this game can screw us over that it would turn this video into a 10-hour documentary were I to list them all out. Instead, I hope you'll allow my voice a small break as I play a short compilation of ridiculous and tragically hilarious moments that this wonderful game has kindly afforded us.
You see that Cybermank just get funky?
Oh, this is good. Let's let this go. Let's just see how much shit he can spawn. The arena's done. He's dead. Not only is he dead, he got crucibled. He was crucibled. Nice. Man, I like when games end, so it's not like a. What is with this wall on this? This is a scam. I mean, pretty wild. But I don't see the carcass. There was like an explosion back here. There's Gibbs over here. I don't know. I got worried that I didn't have blood punch.
Ah, it warms my heart when so beautiful a thing exposes its own flaws unabashedly so. The last thing I would like to review are some of the major skips in this game, because not only are they all very cool and fun to pull off, I find it interesting that we are even able to skip any amount of content at all, given the strict completion requirements and category restrictions placed on us. We're gonna start off strong here. This skip saves about 3 seconds or so. It just saves us from having to punch this box over to help us get up on this ledge. This punch boost lets us skip this arena entirely and probably saves about 20 seconds or so. This is Weaver, or Bieber skip. It saves us from having to walk through some very slow goo and do a big platforming section, probably about 30 seconds or so overall. This punch boost only saves maybe 5 seconds or so, but it is super cool and fun. There are actually several ways to get up and knock this big crucifix down, but it saves us having to do a large platforming section in probably about 20 or 30 seconds overall. This skip in Doom Hunter Base is probably the most significant in the run. I'm not sure exactly how much time it saves compared to a quote-unquote casual playthrough, but it pretty much allows us to skip a quarter of the whole level without actually skipping any combat or anything. This punch boost in Super Gore Nest and the subsequent ballista boosts lets us skip this whole arena, which saves, probably between 30 seconds to a minute. This meat hook here lets us go straight to the bridge in Arc Complex, and while we have to fast travel to finish up the rest of the level, it probably saves a good minute or two. This meat hook in Mars Core lets us save a lot of platforming and gets us straight to this Praetor Suit token, probably saving about 20 seconds or so. There are multiple points in Taurus Nabad where we can skip the swimming sections by just shooting the target straight through the water. These also save an incalculable but significant amount of time. This ballista boost saves us from having to do a whole arena and some more platforming, saves probably a minute or so. This is called Daddy Skip because it skips the cutscene in which Vega realizes he is the father, and to be honest, Urdak requires its own video entirely, which I may tackle someday soon because of how all over the place you are in this level. And last up, we have another yeet hook at the end of Final Sin to help us skip all of this platforming here, which I missed in this run, unfortunately. And before I end this video, I would like to extend a huge, sincere, heartfelt thank you to these runners, without whom not only would I never have developed such an interest in this run, but also for being gracious enough to allow me to use footage from their streams and runs for this video. Links will be in the description, so please go follow them, and since the category is so active right now, you may even get to see another world record soon. And thank you to you for watching this whole video. I truly hope you enjoyed it even half as much as I enjoy this incredible speedrun. Thank you.
And you will be their savior. Your strength will be their shield, and your will their sword. You remain unbroken, for your fight is eternal.